do when you're surprised? What happens? Tend to pray, okay. Okay. What's that? Your eyes get big? Okay. You jump? It does, doesn't it? It depends on the surprise. And I guess depending, yeah, Greg, if you're able to answer that without asking the question of, well, what kind of surprise, then you've probably dealt with one type of surprise more so than others. It's like the only surprise is a bad one. Or the only one's a good one. Or there are different surprises though, aren't there? What happens when you get used to them? Okay. There are some surprises that have happened in my life that I would just assume not have show up in life. There are times when we do get accustomed to the surprise to where it's not surprising anymore. And it can be good and bad. If someone's willing to help you and that comes off as a surprise at one point or another, and then you get used to that, that can become a dangerous situation where you don't appreciate the help that someone's providing you. Or if you used to get scared by a certain surprise and it keeps happening, like, okay, every time I open the door, someone's going to jump out from behind it and scare me, right? So you get to a point that you're like, you got nothing. You need to work on your surprise tactics here. Jesus was not in the grave on Easter Sunday morning. He wasn't there. And that surprised his followers. Surprised them. Should it have? He had told them that I will raise from the dead. I have to be honest, if I'm in their situation, I don't think I'm going to necessarily be up on that fully either. Because it's like, I don't have a bearing on what that looks like. He did. He let them see what it's like for someone to come out of the tomb. They'd seen that. And it's sprinkled here and there of people coming back to life. It's sprinkled through Scripture, but it doesn't happen often. It's so infrequent that it still comes off as a surprise when it happens. But he's not there. And today, the passage we're going to be looking at, he's shown up to his disciples twice prior to this. Okay? We're going to look at John 21. Not John 1 like I have marked. John 21. We're going to start at verse 1. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, and the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them. And they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught Nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, "Friends, haven't you any fish?" "No," they answered. He said, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, "It is the Lord," he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. And the other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it, and some bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have caught." Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. Now this was the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus says, "Simon, son of John, do you truly love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time, he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. I tell you the truth, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." We'll stop there. Jesus has shown up a couple times. And Peter and the other disciples are faced with a situation of, what do we do with this? What is going on? Why does Peter go out to fish? Okay? Yeah. I think that's a heavy bearing in this picture that we're seeing. I don't know what to do with a lot of life, but I know how to fish. What's your fishing? You may not like fishing. You may not even know how to fish well. I don't know. But there's something that when you reach these moments of, I don't know how to do life right now. I can't. There's shirts out there now that says, "I can't adult today." Have you seen those? When you need to put on your I can't adult today t-shirt, what is it that you go do? What's your going to fish? Yeah. Having fun, okay. What is it that you do when you're in these moments? Okay, you build something. You clean or do art. You read, okay. Crochet, okay. You bake, is that what you said? Wow. I guess it's better than baking things with cleaning supplies that blow up. So, here's a cake. I made this just for you. Beware of cupcakes. Just beware of the cupcakes. Is it wrong for Peter and the guys to go fishing? I Yeah, Peter's like, I'm going to fish. And they're like, we're going with you. Yeah, absolutely. I think there was probably a great deal of comfort in the journey out. But something weird happens this time. Now, is it weird to go out fishing and not catch something? For those of you who like fishing, have you ever gone out and not caught a thing? It happens, right? It's why I don't like fishing. I know it's not. I know it's not the point. The point of fishing, though, I wrestle with. I don't like it, so I don't fish. But there are times when we go to do something that we feel as though we're good at, and we feel as though I understand, I know how to do this. I can do this. And then whatever this is doesn't go well. They get out there, and what happens? I mean, you heard or you read, what happens to these guys when they get out there in their journey for fishing? They don't catch a thing. Now, when your life depends on something, I mean, these guys are fishermen, right? This is not a hobby for them. These guys did this as a living, right? So if you're that proficient at something that you do as a living, here's a math problem quick, okay? You need 200 fish in order to have a successful night. You catch none. How successful are you? 0%. That's exciting, right? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. There is a there's a very redeeming work going on in this passage of for Peter, and I don't think he's saddened because he, he is saddened because Jesus asks him 3 times, "Do you love me?" But I think he's saddened because he realizes the implication of why he asks even the third time. I think it hits him of, oh. But it doesn't change the fact that Jesus asks him. And at the end of the ask, as Peter replies, what happens? He commissions him to come and follow me. Peter in this passage, in his brothers in fishing, do a really crappy job. They're 0% successful. How frustrating is that? Have you been there? You go to do something that you enjoy, you build something, or you draw something, or you go to clean, and nothing seems to happen or go the way it's supposed to. You don't have the fasteners or the materials that you need, the paint runs, the brushes break, people come into your house while you're trying to clean. There's nothing more frustrating than just having the floor. I hate sweeping floors anymore. I hate mopping them as well. It's like this is a task that is designed, I think, to only help us deal with people. I think that's the only reason sweeping exists. Because about the time you get it clean, what happens? Just gets dirty again. So does that mean we shouldn't clean floors? Sometimes that's how we feel, isn't it? You know, if I wait for this to get dirty enough, when people come in, they'll start dragging dirt out with them. Right? We could let it get that way. Let me assure you, though, it's got to get really deep before people start dragging more out than they bring in. So don't stop sweeping. But we reach these moments where we're faced with what we know how to do well, and we're not even doing that well. They have a really, have you had a bad night? I mean, these guys had a bad night. Have you had a bad night? Probably, yeah. Yeah. That's fair. We may, certainly you've had these moments, and you may even be in one now. When all of life, even when you can't do what you do well right, and you're 0% successful, it doesn't change that Jesus invites you to come and follow him. Doesn't change. That call is always there. Read verse 5, if you've still got it open. 21, verse 5. He called out to them, "Friends, haven't you any fish?" Now, when does Jesus ask questions that he doesn't know answers to? He always knows, doesn't he? Is he taunting them? Yeah. There can be a difference, isn't there? Is there a difference between teaching and taunting? Sometimes. But boy, sometimes it sure feels like he's taunting us, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Be honest. Jesus tells you, throw out on the other side of the boat. Do you do it? I mean, think about this for a moment. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think, with the small group a little bit, or some group. Isaac had the idea of, why throw out on the other side of the boat? Just turn the boat around. Right? When you think about it, how important is the boat? Where's the net go? In the water. So he says, throw out on the other side of the boat. Do you throw the net? It's the same water. It's a little boat. Okay. We're not talking the deadliest catch type freighters here. Okay? I mean, these are tiny little, yeah. Sure. I've exhausted Google. I hate it when God doesn't leave you alone. Yeah. That's cool. And you argued. Yeah. How many of us argue at this point in time? Jesus says, throw the net on the other side of the boat. How many of us are arguing? And we can have all sorts of reasons why we don't, right? Why we're not going to do the blah, blah, blah. Because clearly we know better than Jesus. He's not been in this situation. He's not in our lives. He doesn't know what's going on, right? How many of us have been there before? You're like, okay, fine. I mean, literally, what else could go wrong at this point in time? It is when you I agree. When you feel life can't get worse, please don't try it. Okay? Because there are many times when we feel life can't get worse and we jump into it thinking that it can't get worse, and lo and behold, God shows us life can get worse. But he also, hey, we'll see ya. He also shows us that through life, he restores, he loves, and he shows off. Doesn't make it easy. Not easy at all. But through these seasons, he shows that he is trustworthy. He shows that he is loving. When does reality sink in for you in these moments? How far do you have to get into something before you realize that God is truly at work? That he does have your best interest. Not your best interest, but he has his best interest in your life. When does that sink in for you? How far do you have to go? Yeah. 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 You, these guys threw out the net and literally went from 0 fish to 153 fish. Large fish. You think just 3/4? Yes, yeah. I did say I threw out the number 200. That's not in there though. I got you though. I'm with you. There are moments though when we wrestle with our life situation, when even we feel like I can't do anything right. We hit these moments, don't we? And God says, now come on now. Listen and respond and see what happens. Trust me. See what happens. They recognize Jesus for who he is in the midst of this circumstance. Right? Verse 7. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." Now what's Peter's response? He pulls a Peter. It's like this is what he does. Okay, well, cool. Give me this, and woof, into the water he goes. Yeah. He doesn't see it for what it is. It takes someone else to tell him it's the Lord. And then that gets him really excited, and he goes off running ahead of everyone else like he always does. He gets to this point, and he gets there. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore. When they landed, they saw a fire with burning coals. And what? There's fish already on it. Why do we need 153 fish in this net? Well, that's true. Why not? They went out to fish, right? That's what they went out for. But when it comes for breakfast, are the fish needed? He's already got it covered. There are times when he doesn't need what we have to offer, but he invites us to contribute anyway. And that opportunity will be there, I believe, every time. I believe he doesn't need our contribution, but he invites it. Not because he needs it, but because as we participate with him, as we invest what he has already given us, it helps us identify and hold tight to what it is he's doing. Yeah. It strengthens and grows our lives. Peter, because he ran ahead and he sees this stuff, Jesus says, "Bring some of the fish you have caught." So what's Peter have to do? Goes back the other way. I mean, he's the king of rework. Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of fish. Jesus said to them, "Come have breakfast." Now, there was no need to ask who he was. They knew who he was. They knew who he was. And then this whole encounter begins of Jesus talking to Peter, saying, "Do you love me?" Now, what does fishing and Jesus' love and Peter's love for Jesus have to do with one another? It is something that Peter enjoys doing. Or at least that he was able to make a livelihood doing. So, what's that? Well, he says more than these. We don't know if he's pointing at the fish or the other disciples or the boats. We don't necessarily know what he's pointing at, but it is asked, do you love me more than these? You're going to be asked that same question. We get asked that same question, don't we? Do you love me more than this? Yeah. Yeah. How does Jesus ask you this question? How is he asking you? What are the more than these for you? Yeah. It's not even an offer. It's a proclamation. Come follow me and I will make you a fisher of men. You think you're good at fishing for fish. You just wait. You wait and see. And there are many ways that we could potentially look at what's going on with this passage of, well, he's going back to something he knows. He's going back to a hobby. He's leaving. There are some who believe that Peter was leaving